Welcome to the show. My name is Elian Ramos, and I'm so happy to be here with you tonight. This is my first show of the year. Not technically, but let's say that this is my first show of the year. And this is a great show. I'm so excited for the conversation that we're going to have tonight. So you're going to excuse me while I fangirl here, but I have a group of people who are my heroes. I think they're everybody's heroes right now. This is a group of really brave kids. I feel like I should throw you guys a party, really. It's not just like a hangout, but a party. So this group of kids, I call them kids only because I'm so much older than them. But their sheer energy, their determination has turned them into, some of the most outspoken advocates for immigration out there. And I'm talking, of course, about the Dreamers. Tonight, I'll be interviewing some of the most prominent Dreamers within that group. Let's start with Cesar Vargas, who is the co-director of the Dream Action Coalition. He's also a graduate from the CUNY School of Law. How are you, Cesar?
How are you? Thank you so much, Eliane, for having us.
So happy that you could make it. And next, I have Juan Escalante, who is a dreamer, and he's also a student at Florida State University. How are you, Juan?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Glad you could make it. And last but not least, actually she should be the first, because this is a woman whose name has quickly become synonymous with the fight of the Dreamers. She's everywhere. I just saw her on TV yesterday. So I'm so happy to have here a woman I adore, Erika Andiola. And she's also a co-director for the Dream Action Coalition. How are you, Erika?
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm doing very well. I'm really happy to be here with you guys.
I am so honored that you are here. As you know, big, huge fan. And I want to talk about, we're going to be talking about so many things, but you guys are fresh off from the Iowa Freedom Summit that just happened this weekend. And I think by now everybody knows what happened, but I want to hear it like first-hand accounts. Tell me all about it. What was that like to be in that place, and tell us everything that happened? Anybody?
Juan, Erica?
Well, it was definitely interesting. I think for us the biggest message that we were bringing to this summit wasn't necessarily for Steve King, but mostly for the presidential candidates that were there. And I think just kind of coming from that experience that we had with Senator Rand Paul in the past, where he literally took off, as soon as we started talking to Steve King at a fundraiser, we wanted to see where the other candidates or potential candidates for 2016 were going to stand. So, I mean, that was the main reason for going to Iowa. And it was definitely an experience. And, maybe I'll leave it for Juan or Cesar to sort of tell you a little bit more about the experience. I mean, just to tell you that Cesar ended up, arrested by Steve King's staff, basically. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely an interesting event, and we were able to exactly do what we wanted to do, to send that message to those candidates, right?
Yeah, and I am going to share a couple of the pictures from that day. Well, Juan can tell me. Juan, I see you now on the pictures. Can you see them?
Yeah, no, I can. It's very interesting, and just like Erika said, we went there with the purpose of essentially sending a message loud and clear to the candidates that were there, and something that we were discussing as well as, kind of like the atmosphere of the whole place. This is essentially a very particular platform from where these individuals are able to speak from to a target audience, in which they're able to say whatever they want, and receive applause and cheers. And it's a very interesting dynamic just to being there, as an undocumented immigrant sitting in the crowd, because you're surrounded by people who are essentially agreeing with everything that's being said about deportations, about securing the border, and about ending DACA and DAPA. So for us to hear messages from people like Rick Perry and and Governor Christie, potential people that could be viable candidates for the 2016 cycle. is very alarming for us. So it definitely was a very interesting situation to be caught in, especially leading up to such an important event that showcases what the GOP has in store for the next couple of months leading up to the 2016 cycle.
Holy cow! And you look terrified in those pictures. Did they hurt you? My God, it's like I cannot even imagine what that must have been like.
Yeah, well, that is one of the participants that was with us, Marco, and he was the other individual that was arrested, which was something that was unexpected. And Cesar mentioned that he too was arrested. So definitely an unexpected set of circumstances.
So Cesar, you got arrested as well. How was that? Was that planned? Was part of the? Did you guys go there with the intention to get arrested, or how did it happen?
It was definitely not planned, and definitely as soon as they put the handcuffs on us, I think it really caught us off guard. Like for me at least, when at the beginning, I thought everything was fine. The first group interrupted, Rick Perry, and they were released, and then I came, I did that, and I think it was really shocking to kind of see that the security, especially the organizers and Steve King, really would encourage the police to arrest me. And even the police at the end, they released me. They recognized, they were very professional. They recognized that it was nonsense to even request arrest. But but at least what was planned is for us to really hold accountable the Republican candidates, potential candidates who really want to appeal to a nation, right? It's a nation. It's not just Iowa. It's a nation. And the fact that immigration is going to be a critical issue for so many American families, not just immigrants, but so many American families, is critical. And I think when the first interruption happened with Rick Perry, I think Juan and Erika and the other team did a great job, really pushing the envelope to really tell Rick Perry and the other ones that dreamers are here, and that the undocumented community and the immigrant community is going to be holding them accountable, and that they're not going to get away with just talking anything, especially to the Tea Party base. And for me, after they left, I made a decision whether or not to stay or follow them. And the reality is, and I was alone already, so it was kind of like a little bit. I was like, well, I'm alone. Should I take a chance and do it by myself? This is a Tea Party conservative base who are predominantly all white. I was the only brown kid, the only brown guy there. So it was definitely demographically it was challenging. It was definitely overwhelming to kind of see but I took a chance. I couldn't just sit there while Governor Chris Christie from New Jersey, with that Latinos overwhelmingly supported him, for him to come to Iowa and befriend a person like Steve King, who has called Latinos and immigrants dogs, who has called dreamers drug mules. So for me, I took a chance and called them out and said, "Would you deport dreamers?" And I was taken out, escorted, and it was shocking to be arrested, but it was worth it. It was worth it to ensure that we are pushing these people, to remind them that the Latino community is not going to step back and not do anything.
And you said something very important. Stephen has made a name for himself in calling you guys all kinds of names. I mean, he's not just like the allusion to you being drug mules or Latinos in general, because he didn't specify who it was, but calling you, I think during the conference he also called you other people who come from another planet or something like that. So it's just this whole dehumanizing language that he's been using, and he's become pretty famous about it. So what do you think is behind all this hatred? Is it ignorance? Is it him pandering to the base, or what do you think is really going on?
Well, go ahead, Erika.
No, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I don't know if he really believes what he's saying. I think that he's very out of touch when it comes to the Latino community, when it comes to immigrants. I mean, the last time that we spoke to him at the fundraiser, where I literally asked him to rip up my DACA card, right? Like, I really wanted to see. I mean, it wasn't just me doing this out of the blue. I really wanted to see what his reaction was going to be, talking to actual undocumented people, right? Like, what did he have to say? I think a lot of it was, a lot of the comments that he made were very, very out of touch. I mean, just basically saying, like, oh, you speak English, right? Like that was the first thing that he said to me, like, oh, you speak English. He seems so surprised, you know, and it's,
Yeah.
I
And
mean, I think
he's
that's
almost like afraid to touch you, like you're going to bite or something. I remember that being
yeah,
so funny.
no, it was just really weird to just kind of have that interaction with him. But I mean, another part of it is really like, you know, the base that he has is you know, folks who are really away from the truth, really away from knowing exactly the immigrant story, the immigrant experience. And so, you know, I think, like I said, right, like us going there wasn't necessarily to give that message to Steve King and his crowd, because I mean, like Juan was saying, like the crowd there was pretty scary sometimes, just to like see like how passionate they were about the things that Sarah Palin was saying. I was just like, whoa, you know, why were they be so happy about this? And they were, but those are the people that they're trying to convince. And at the end of the day, we don't care about Steve King. We care more about what Perry and Chris Christie have to say, because they're going to be the ones running for president.
Yeah, yeah, and now that you say that, you know, it's funny to notice, and I'm sure you guys noticed that a lot of the other candidates actually skipped the event. So what do you think is behind that? They're skipping, not showing up to something so important, because this is the Republican base that they were going for. So what do you think is behind that?
I think it's just, you know, some of the publications that came out after the action were essentially that this summit, you know, this meeting was, well, first of all, not essentially an official gathering of sorts. It was just essentially co-sponsored by Citizens United and the Tea Party and Congressman Steve King. So it was more of like, you know, a preliminary show of face. But at the same time, I also think it's due to the fact that a lot of the candidates that were there, or a lot of the personalities that were there, are second string individuals. And that's not to say that they're not important in the national landscape of things, but when it comes to Republican candidates who actually have a viable chance at the White House, it is my personal opinion, at least, that their staffers, you know, were right up front with them. It's like, you know, you're best served being distancing yourselves from people like Steve King if you want to capture the Hispanic vote, or at least seem convincing enough to capture a portion of that demographic.
And I hope that, Cesar, I don't know if you want to add anything, or Erika, to what Juan just said.
Yeah, you know, that's the reality. And I think when you have Donald Trump and when you have Sarah Palin at your summit, you're not exactly being credible anymore, especially on things that we're talking about. Jon Stewart did a great piece that even Sarah Palin was not even speaking proper grammar, proper English at one point. You know, she could even pronounce the words. She forgot about the verbs. She forgot about the nouns. So and when the fact that Donald Trump wants to build a fence and put his name on it, like, you know, Trump border fence, you know, those are people not even second string. Those are just like water boys, water girls. So that's a reality. Like, and that, I think the fact that Jeb Bush and Rand Paul and Marco Rubio, yes, it was politically smart, but they're not gonna get away with, you know, avoiding the tough question. And we are gonna hold them accountable. We are gonna go to their towns, and to a lot of Latino states where our community really cares about this issue, and not just immigration, right? Immigration is certainly an important issue, but where do they stand in education, healthcare? Because it's about our families. We want to make sure that the well-being is a priority for our family. So these are public officials, and we're going to hold them accountable.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, and I'm just going to play devil's advocate here, you know, Trump and Palin have every right to run for president. As a matter of fact, I think they should run together. I mean, that would be some ticket. Can you imagine?
Oh, that would be something.
I mean,
Don't
that
give
would
them
be
any ideas now.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think this is so crazy. And the most crazy part of what happened this weekend, I think, is the fact that it should be pretty obvious. I think this is what Erika was trying to say before. It should be pretty obvious right now that anything that where you are being or siding with the anti-immigrant movement, you're going to pay a political price for that. So how do you think this whole topic of immigration is going to affect the elections next year?
I think that, I mean, it has already affected the 2012 elections. When we were, I mean, if you remember, right, Mitt Romney's rhetoric was completely off the charts when it came to immigration, which we didn't know that was going to happen until he started talking about the Dream Act. That was in, actually, it was also in Iowa, and it was actually thanks to one of our friends that was there with us this time around that they snuck into one of his fundraisers, Mitt Romney's, and they asked him that question: what would you do with the Dream Act? He was expecting this really conservative crowd, so he started saying, I would veto it, right? Like nothing. So I think that that really followed, you know, his entire campaign, and then he started adopting the self-deportation rhetoric. And at the end of the day, we saw the numbers. I mean, we saw that the Latino community overwhelmingly went to the president. We know, I mean, that the president hasn't been, you know, the best on deportations since he took office, but I mean, he didn't have this rhetoric that Mitt Romney had. So, you know, I think it's going to be very similar what's going to happen in 2016, and I think Dreamers played a huge role on getting Mitt Romney out there as the person that he was, you know, talking about self-deportation. We did so much confrontations with him as well, and you know, there you had the results. He lost, and we're hoping that they learned their lesson. I don't know if the GOP actually learned their lesson, but we shall see really soon.
Wow. Yeah, and I mean, after this weekend, I think after everything that was written about the summit and everything else, that should give them a pretty good idea, right, where the country is headed in terms of this. But let's go and talk about something else. The summit was just one of the ways that you guys have been utilizing your power out there. You really made it kind of your trademark to kind of confront all of these politicians, especially the ones that are more outspoken against immigration. And this is being, you know, I mean, everybody remembers that other video where you guys confronted Steve King and Rand Paul and all of these other actions that you've been taking, and it's been giving you a lot of success. So what is the overall strategy behind this, if you want to walk us through that, and how do you plan to escalate this so that it's not just like a series of stunts, but like, you know, how do you bring it to a higher level to leverage all of this attention that you're getting because of these tactics? Who wants to go?
Erika? Juan? Erika?
I mean, I can say a little bit, and I would love for Juan and Cesar to also pitch in, but I mean, I think that part of it is sort of posing, like putting out there the moral dilemma, and given that a lot of, and this has worked for both Democrats and Republicans. I mean, it's been so easy, and it's a little bit easier with Democrats when it comes down to, you know, because they are so usually like they want to look pro-immigrant, and so when you pose this question of like, well, you are deporting my mom, or you know, or my sister almost got deported, so you have that real story, and you kind of pose this like moral dilemma on them to tell you to your face that they don't like you or they want you deported. And for the most part, these folks, not all of them actually believe it. They usually use it just more of as a talking point. And so when they have you in front, they really don't know what to do. And sometimes it looks funny, sometimes it looks messed up, but it makes for a good YouTube video, and it makes for a good, you know, people really get entertained, and sometimes it just puts them out there.
Very true, very true.
Yeah.
And so,
I think you know, just like Erika said, it's all about making sure that people are held accountable at all levels, on both sides of the aisle, and that's something that, you know, obviously different groups try to execute leading up to, you know, 2012, when a bunch of activists, you know, also undocumented, started occupying Obama for America's offices across the country. So it's all about illustrating the narrative, right? I mean, like, we have a president that supports the DREAM Act, comprehensive immigration reform, but has the highest deportation record in the history of this country. And then you have the Republican Party that also, like, you know, is left and right on when it comes to dealing with an issue like immigration reform. So it's all about making sure that you capture the moment and the humanity of those people. So when you put them on that spot, you get a very visible snapshot as to who that person is as an individual when they're talking to you one-on-one, even if it is for a brief second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, and I just want to add a final thought that even though Marco from Texas and me from New York were there, the reality is that this was organized and led by Iowa Dreamers. And that, the Iowa Dreamers are building a great team and great leaderships who are really holding account with these politicians. They also confronted a former Senator DeMint from South Carolina, now the president of the Heritage Foundation. They confronted Ted Cruz. So the fact that they're going to Iowa or New Hampshire or South Carolina doesn't mean that there's no Latino there. That doesn't mean that there's no Dreamers there. We are everywhere. We are going to remind them that we are everywhere, because this is about our families. And we are building a network not because we want to build a political party or because we want to support Democrats, but because we are fighting for our families, and we are going to hold accountable Republicans, as Erika and Juan said. Democrats as well, because they may have nice rhetoric, but what matters is the policies and action, not just pretty words.
Exactly, and what's going on also is that, and I think that they don't keep this in mind, that we're everywhere. Latinos are not just in the main quote-unquote Latino cities. It's not just LA and Miami and New York anymore. It's like we're all over the place. And so I think this is part of the brilliant strategy that you guys have, is that you are creating all of these pockets of power in all of these different places. And it's been garnering a lot of successes for you. You just got the driver's license in Arizona. You just got, people credit you with this whole action that the president just took a couple of months ago to extend DACA and to create DAPA. So there's been a lot of success associated with this. But what is the next goal for you guys? What is coming up next?
I think something that we discussed while we were in Iowa was essentially keeping, not only candidates accountable, like we discussed, but also making sure that programs like DACA and DAPA receive the attention and the sign-up numbers that they need. It's about outreaching to the community and making sure that the programs are not only successful and willing to reach their audience, but also are kept alive. I think today there was a very brief comment on NPR that I heard on the way here, about how John Boehner is trying to sue the president once again on the issue of immigration. We'll see where that leads, but it's making sure that these programs are accessible and ready to go, and with the possibility of whoever takes the White House next or over the next 2 years with President Obama to make sure that we expand and continue to build upon what these programs are able to do and continue to do for many of our families and individuals all across the country who just want a fair shot at a life and an opportunity or an education in this country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think another piece of it is really, which is right now very, very challenging, is figuring out how we can also include the 7 million people that were left behind, right? I think right now it's been really, really hard for us, and I think for some of us whose parents didn't even qualify for this, right? It's a little bit of a, what do you call it, agridulce, right? It's hard to really have this victory that we pushed for, and that all of us were part of the push for it, and then our parents were left behind, and then now it's sort of like this national narrative that the president is like this amazing person who did these amazing things by himself, which is not the truth. But it's going to be a little bit hard for us to sort of like change that, for people to understand that there is still 7 million people that are vulnerable to deportation, and who can still be helped in some ways by the administration, right? While we wait and while we figure out how to get Republicans on track, because I can't go back to my mom and say, sorry, Mom, I'm gonna have to wait until Republicans get their crap together so that we can do this in 3 years. Like, it's just not, that's just not an answer for our communities, and we're gonna have to figure out a way to do that as well, given the fact that this just recently happened.
Yeah, and I think that was going to be my next question, because, you guys have been fighting for this for so long, and now we have both the Congress and the Senate are Republicans, so it's going to be twice as hard, at least in my head, to get the two parties to come together and agree on something. So how do you see the prospects for reform in the next couple of years, because this is like a battle that just started, and like Juan mentioned, Boehner is planning to sue the president again over the same thing, and it's kind of like a never-ending loop, right? It just goes like this, and it starts all over again. And so, what do you think are the prospects for that? Do you think there's a chance in any in any dimension that can bring immigration to be a reality? Immigration reform.
There's when it comes to Congress, I have no hope. I don't believe Congress can make miracles happen. It's the politics, the political games. I do have hope and I do have faith because in the American people, in our community, in the Latino community, because if anything can actually be proven is that DACA, DAPA, and the latest fixes was because of our community. The president did not want to do this. That's a reality. It was the people and the community and the dreamers who pushed him to do this. So while I don't have faith in Congress and politicians, Republicans or Democrats, I do have faith in my community, and I do have faith that we are going to continue to push for another victory this year in 2016. Maybe not, hopefully, ideally, legislatively and permanently, but if not, we're going to continue to remind the president that he has still legal authority to do more. And that's something that we're going to continue to remind him, both on the legal grounds, on the political grounds, and the electoral grounds. Because as we saw, Republicans are pretty smart in protecting their vulnerable Republicans, like in Colorado. And we are going to remind them that the president's job is not over. But we're also going to keep pushing for. Our job was never to kill CIR, as some critics say, right? Our job was not to eliminate a path to citizenship. Our job was to end the deportation machine that was breaking families apart. And we're going to continue to do that, whether it's legislatively or executively. We're going to move out of the box because we want to make sure that we're getting released, whether it's through Congress or through the presidents or through the courts.
Very good, and it's great that you say that, because right now what's happening, and as I speak to people around the country, it's that people are getting discouraged. People are getting, it's almost like you get this little tiny victory, but then there's so many people, like Erika said, that don't have that hope right now, and there doesn't seem to be any hope about actual reform happening. So what would you say to these people who are losing faith, who are kind of starting to give up on seeing the reform actually happen? What would you say to them?
Something that we, again, going back to, over the weekend, and I was talking to Erika and Cesar about it, is that, with DACA and DAPA now in place, and the 7 million people who are still waiting for some sort of relief, I think one of the most viable things that we can do as undocumented youth or as activists is to remind the people who are benefited from this program that there's still people out there, friends, families, who they may or may not know, who are still waiting for their relief. And what we need to make sure to do is to remind everybody that whether they benefit or not, that change can happen, and it's been illustrated by the execution of both of these programs. And granted that they're not a permanent legislative solution, but when we become united and we push for something, we can do whatever we put our minds to it. It's just a matter of getting informed, making sure that you get involved in your community, and ensuring that whatever is it that the proposal is on the table gets negotiated to the point that it actually becomes a reality.
And just to add a little bit, I mean, what I tell here people in Arizona when we organize, right, it's that if Dreamers would have stopped after DACA, this wouldn't have happened. And I think that the most powerful thing that happened after DACA was that we all came together, at different levels of the movement, because I mean this movement is so diverse. I think like people came together, and mostly from the undocumented youth community. And even now with our parents and our moms are super involved. So, some of the moms have been really amazing. And we decided to continue to push for them and for people who were not DACA eligible. So I think, this is a time for us to drive the message again, right? That those who are now privileged enough to have a Social Security, to have a driver's license and so on, that we need to sort of use that privilege to be able to push for those who don't have it, right? And so we're going to continue to drive that message, and we have a huge opportunity to, we have tons of forums across the country now and locally, right, that are going to be able to have give us access to a lot of these folks that are going to be looking for the help, but also that we can drag them and somehow empower them to continue to fight for the other folks who were left behind.
Very nice. Very nice. And I know that it's already time. I know I told you that I would hold you only for a half hour, and you guys have been so gracious to stay a little longer. But I want to give you this last couple of minutes to just give you the floor. Tell me, where can people find you? How can they support what you guys are doing, these amazing things that you do every day? And what resources are out there? Just anything. This is your time to really tell people where to get you. Anyone?
Cesar?
Cesar?
I think really for us, it's just to remind people, at least for us, and I think sometimes that everything gets caught up in the political theater. We see the Dreamers, and it's like, oh, politicians, they're anti-Republican and they're attacking Republicans. Good for them. Or when we attack the president, quote, attack the president, right? We hold accountable the president because he's an elected official, and that's the job as Americans, a job as people, to hold accountable our government, to remind them that they serve the community, not the other way around, and that politicians are always going to have ambitions. So for us, we just hope to let the people know that when we are confronting Democrats or we are holding Republicans, it's not because that we're one part or the other. It's not that we're Democrats or we're Republicans. It's just that we at this point want to make sure that as many people as possible, our parents, our brothers and sisters, our families, have the protection to really live their lives and just and work and live in peace and not be worried about being separated by an agent as they go to the store. So I think that's most important for me, and then for people to remind and to support us, right? Whether it's tweeting, whether it's posting on Facebook. I was really encouraged by the people who share our stuff during this weekend. When people send me messages about, are you okay? Do you need a lawyer? That was really encouraging, right? I think that's the power of the Latino community coming together, our community coming together for each other. So that's just simply, there's no political message. It's just like, it's that we need to move forward and hold a government accountable.
Exactly. And what is the website where people can find you? What is your emails or your contact information?
Yeah, you can just follow us at DRM Action on Twitter, Facebook as Dream Action Coalition, DRM Action Coalition, and the our website is drmactioncoalition.org. And you can either way you can find us on social media for sure. Juan is an amazing, online activist who was incredible this weekend, who really got us out there. Perhaps if it wasn't for him, I probably would have been in jail still. But together with the whole DRM team and Erika organized ability, I think we make a great team, and that's because we have passion in this. So hopefully everyone can find us on social media and keep following us.
Beautiful. Erika, you want to add anything before we go?
No, I mean, I think that we need to continue pushing and breaking boundaries, and I think a lot of the undocumented youth movement has been able to break the Washington D.C. Status quo when it comes to pushing for what our community needs. And I think we need to continue to do that, and we need to continue, like I said, to empower our communities, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. And reality is this is very personal for us, right? And so it will continue to be personal, and I know we're gonna be getting some people to be uncomfortable. I think we've done it in the past, but that it's okay because it's for a good purpose. And it's just the like I said, posing a moral dilemma is usually uncomfortable for politicians. So we're gonna continue to do that.
Exactly, and that is the only way to change the world, huh? So you guys have been doing amazing things. I just want you to know that, every time you're out there, there's millions of people behind you cheering. So I want you to always remember that. And I want to thank you for being here, for taking the time. I know that you guys are super busy planning all of that amazing stuff that you do every day. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everyone who's been watching. I want to remind remind everyone to visit their website, which is drmactioncoalition.org. And they're there. Just please support these guys because they're putting their lives and in everything that they have in the line to get immigration reform passed. So thank you so much, everyone, and I see you all next week. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you,
Thank you,
guys.
everyone.
Gracias.
Bye.
Good night.